Look what these fucking are. No.
No. Holy shit. It's him.
That's crazy shit. It's crawling at me like a goddamn... What's up, dude?
From unexplained lights appearing in the middle of a storm-covered mountain to massive footsteps circling a campsite deep in the woods, these camping encounters prove that sometimes the danger isn't what you can see, but what's already moving nearby in the dark. Would you stay and investigate, or leave before it got closer? A man was filming an exploration through a remote wooded area near East Jericho in Suffolk County, New York, featured on the YouTube channel Dateline 420, with the footage uploaded on October 4th, 2016. What began as a routine walk soon developed into a deeply unsettling encounter in an isolated section of forest.
With any sense of strategy or tactics, because people can hide on the tops and throw things or shoot at you. Look what these fucking are. What the fuck is going on in here? And this isn't like woods I've never been to. I've actually been to the hospital getting stitches because of some of the adventures that I've had. These are all different fucking people. And they're all just, this is Utah, Florida. They're all different. They're all fucking different.
Farther into the woods, the explorer discovered pathways that appeared to have been intentionally blocked. Close by sat a fire pit, and scattered throughout the area were missing persons, posters, dozens of them originating from different states and different years. Some of the posters dated back to 2006 and 2007, suggesting they had been left there for a very long time. As he continued moving deeper into the area, the situation became even more disturbing.
This one's from Georgia. And look at this shit. Like, look, what's this? This is some kind of oil filter, I think. So, like, anyway, I'll tell you the location is inside the dunes. You gotta go in and you gotta just keep going in, making, what did I do? How did I get here? And I just mostly followed the main trails, and then I kind of just kept making a left. This one's from South Carolina. Look, not only how many there are and the fact that we're in here, but the fucking trouble that somebody went through. Sorry, spiderwebs. Oh no, this is a dude. It's a dude, 26, last seen August 5th. Like, you had to stand in this shit. But like, somebody's fucking standing in this shit.
He came across a shovel followed by a crude wooden structure resembling a handmade cage that had partially collapsed inward. It had been constructed around what appeared to be a filled-in hole in the ground. Alone, unarmed, and surrounded by dense forest, the atmosphere quickly became more alarming. The narrator openly acknowledged how uneasy and potentially dangerous the situation felt.
The fire pit? That's a shovel. I don't even know if this fucking shit is booby-trapped. They could be watching me right now. 21 years old, Santa Ana, California, missing 2006.
Although nearby residents later explained that the posters were likely Halloween decorations standing alone in the woods surrounded by signs of something unsettling, was enough to make him leave immediately. Sometimes situations like this never receive clear explanations, and even the smallest details can feel wrong in ways that are difficult to explain. If you found yourself in a camping encounter like this, would you stay to understand it? Or leave before something changed? Imagine driving down a quiet forest road when you suddenly notice someone standing off to the side completely alone in the middle of nowhere. You slow down, pull over, and ask if they need help. That's the normal reaction most people would have, but the response you receive is far from what you expected. That's exactly what happened to this man while he was driving home.
Just some cruisers, man. That's crazy shit. It's crawling at me like a goddamn... What's up, dude?
The clip itself is short, and honestly it's easy to understand why the person recording decided to leave immediately. Realistically, most people probably would have reacted the same way. The individual seen on camera appears extremely disoriented, and the way he climbs up the slope on all fours feels unnatural. The movements alone are deeply unsettling. Maybe the man was under the influence or dealing with something serious mentally. The point is, when someone behaves unpredictably, situations can change very quickly. And when you can't figure out what someone might do next, keeping your distance is usually the safest choice, especially during a late-night camping encounter. If you were in that situation, would you try to approach or leave immediately? Geechee Uncharted is a channel where the creator documents his explorations and openly admits that many of his decisions are reckless, and honestly, that becomes obvious throughout a lot of his trips. The video uploaded on December 9th, 2025 captures one of those situations. Over time, he has explored countless abandoned locations. Some expeditions go well, while others quickly become problematic, just like this one. This time, his goal was to locate a World War II bunker he had discovered on old, unreliable maps. The bunker was reportedly hidden deep inside a forest on a mountain far from an easy location to access. The hike itself was already difficult with steep terrain and thick vegetation, and at one point it even seemed possible that he was crossing through land that may not have been public property. The footage is relatively short, but it immediately shows that the trip is not going smoothly.
I'm going to trespass on private property. My purpose here is that I'm going to find a lost World War II bunker. It's raining a little bit. I've been following this logging road for a while. There is where the bunker is. It's looking like the trenches of the Great War. Wasteland.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's close. Holy shit. It's him. That was fucking close. Okay, that's him. He's coming back. That's not his truck. That was two other workers.
I'm trying to film this real quick, because I don't know when this fucker's gonna come back.
After managing to avoid being noticed by the people inside a nearby vehicle, the real challenge begins. He has to start climbing, and one mistake in that environment would turn the situation into something much more serious than a simple YouTube adventure. The terrain becomes increasingly dangerous, and the route he chose is clearly unsafe.
This was the worst way to do this. This sheath for my spear. If I fell on this, I'd die, man. Ow. I don't know where my sheath is. Okay. Now we're risking it. I don't know if I can get up this. Oh my god. This might get precarious. Yo. I don't have a choice. I have to keep going. No. Oh my god. Hold on. My shoulder. Cramped hard. This whole thing's fucked. I don't remember which way. But it's a cliff. It's a fucking cliff. I already say fuck it and go through the brambles. I can get out. The road's right up there. So what just happened was you probably just bore witness to my worst idea ever. Lord have mercy, I did not expect that. That was the worst thing that I've done in a long fucking time. I'm not gonna be able to find this bunker with just my phone as a fucking flashlight, man. I gotta turn back.
The trip eventually reaches nightfall, and honestly, that may have been for the best. Sometimes continuing forward is not bravery, it is simply unnecessary risk. The situation becomes a reminder that not every exciting idea is worth following no matter the cost. The footage ends exactly where you saw it. There is no scene showing him making it back down safely, but since he continued uploading videos afterward, it is reasonable to assume he returned home without incident. And considering his usual style, there is a strong chance viewers will see him attempting something similar again. Sometimes situations like this unfold differently than expected, and small choices can quietly determine how serious things become. If you found yourself in a camping encounter like this, would you keep moving forward or turn around before things became worse? Just after 5 a.m., alone on a storm-battered mountainside in complete darkness, he suddenly notices it alight. Not far away, not somewhere down in the valley, but only seconds from where he stands, placing him directly inside a tense camping encounter in a remote and exposed environment. The video was uploaded on January 23rd, 2026 on the channel Sort of Interesting.
I then snap my head back because I've spotted, unbelievably, at something past 5 in the morning on the side of a mountain, I've spotted a light right there. Only a matter of a 10-second walk away. I have that moment where the pit of my stomach becomes the most prominent part of my body.
The beam sits directly along the trail he had just walked, cutting through heavy fog and rain. In that moment, his stomach drops. There is no visible horizon, no nearby houses, no vehicles, only wind rain, and that single light.
Dark. I mean, it's total darkness. I can't even see a difference. Because of the stormy, murky sky, there was simply utter darkness. Get my bearings and to try and sort of get my mind to figure out a blank. So it's quite interesting. It's a little bit unnerving and oppressive to just have the light of my headlamp. And after an hour or so,
he stops convincing himself it must belong to a farmer. He waits, speaks casually. To the camera, adjusts his gear, but nobody approaches. Then the light suddenly disappears, leaving behind a silence that makes the entire situation feel even more unsettling. Later, while reviewing the footage, he zooms in and notices something beside the glow, a faint pulsing flicker, almost infrared, suggesting a phone camera recording in the darkness.
That I could have been being observed and filmed at that moment. And so, looking at the footage now, next to the main light, and I believe that is the infrared sensor trying to do whatever these phones do. And I think I was being recorded on a mobile phone there. I have become the accidental campsite discoverer and intruder passing by. The flash has come on their phone and given away their location, stood completely open on the track, thinking they're invisible to me. And of course, trying to film owls hooting out of my girlfriend's window the other night, purpley light, which I believe is the reflection of my own phone's infrared pulse. That's what I think was actually happening, that I was being filmed. And now in hindsight, it was a spooky experience in some ways. That
in that moment, he realizes he may have been watched and filmed. Someone hadn't simply been nearby, someone may have been quietly recording him while standing out there in silence, watching him speak casually to the camera, completely unaware he was only a short distance from a hidden campsite.
And it definitely gave that utter dark environment a much spookier feeling for the rest of the day. I do wonder who and why and what the situation was out in the small hours, who couldn't believe themselves that they had stumbled across another person. And I would have been visible leaving there because it was so dark you had to have a light on of some kind. I would have also seen them multiple times over the...
When he later returned to the area, he discovered a single fresh footprint appearing after his own, and it did not match. As daylight revealed more of the trail, the position of the light became clearer, a location perfectly suited for hiding a tent or bivvy unnoticed.
So when I came back to this area later on in the day, there was one footprint clear that was fresh and had arrived after mine. No other sign of any sort of sign of life there. When I walked a little further down the track, you can see roughly where that light had been. Perfect for sneakily hiding a tent or a bivvy bag amongst.
On a remote mountain during severe weather before sunrise, he had not been alone. And if someone was truly there, they intentionally chose not to reveal themselves. Anyone with bad intentions wouldn't need any visible light at all. Sometimes situations like this feel too precise to be random, as though something was already there and simply remained hidden. If you realized someone had been watching you the entire time during a camping encounter, would you stay calm or leave before it became something worse? As darkness settles over the forest, he makes a risky decision to watch Annabelle alone inside his tent, far from home, creating the perfect setup for a tense camping encounter. The video was uploaded on November 4th, 2024, on the YouTube channel Rambling On. One earbud remains in while he continues listening to the woods around him. Rain begins striking the tent fabric as the horror movie grows more intense among the trees, blending the sounds from the film with the isolation surrounding his campsite.
So the movie I've chosen is Annabelle. I've never watched it, so I think I'm going to try and watch. I don't have one on this side because, you know yourself, I want to be aware of my surroundings. Let's see what we can do here. Jeez.
On the screen, a baby cries somewhere in the darkness. Inside the tent, the rain suddenly grows heavier.
We're buffering. Can't say I'm upset about it. Oh no, I can't watch the rest of it. Okay, I have it sorted. I took the opportunity to move the camera. Come on now. I'm actually...
Then everything drops into silence. No movie audio, no distraction, only the storm and the forest surrounding him. He starts the film again, and moments later, a demonic figure flashes across the screen. At that exact moment, wind slams against the tent walls. The flame on his stove suddenly flares violently, forcing him to shut it off before it can burn through the fabric. For a brief moment, panic replaces humor, turning the situation into a real-world camping encounter, where the timing feels impossible to ignore.
I'm kind of in. I don't want to bring the stove in here because of the splatters of grease and stuff. I'll at least try and get this one done. Make life easy on myself. It's a bit stuck.
Later, around 5 a.m., he wakes to relentless rain. The river beside the campsite is no longer calm. It's roaring loudly through the darkness. Water begins flowing behind the tent. He unzips the door and realizes the floodplain is filling rapidly.
So I'll see you in the morning. It's 10 to 5. It has not stopped raining all night long. I've only got one earplug. I don't know where the other one's gone. It's in here somewhere.
The real danger had never been the movie. It was the environment around him changing without warning.
That I'm on the floodplain of a river. So I'm hoping it's not raining enough for it to flood. It does sound like it's flowing a bit more enthusiastically. We should be fine. Should be fine. I'm going to try and get another hour's sleep. I shouldn't have said anything.
Sometimes a camping encounter like this isn't about what you see, but how quickly everything around you can change. The timing, the pressure, and the environment can shift within seconds. If you were in that situation, would you stay and wait it out, or leave before escape became impossible? There was a strange, lifeless feeling along the trail that she couldn't shake. Then she discovered the reason, and it was something she couldn't explain. Halfway through a quiet hike in the Bunya Mountains, the peaceful trail suddenly starts feeling wrong. Sandy notices small white bodies scattered across the dark forest floor. The video was uploaded on July 4th, 2025 from the channel Tim and Sandy BSN. Yes, the sand van. At first there's only one mouse, then another, until she counts 4 in total. Each one appears freshly dead-gutted, but left untouched. Their pale fur stands out sharply against the ground, impossible to ignore.
Like, not in a human type way. Like, I feel like it's one of those lively forests. I've seen a lot of mice on the track that have died. There's one here just laying there. I'm not going to put it on camera. What killed it? I've seen 4 so far on the track. Makes me wonder, what else is in it? What else is in it?
She pauses, trying to understand what kind of predator would kill prey without eating it. The forest around her feels unnaturally silent. No birds, no movement. Just the sound of wind passing through the trees. A strange feeling slowly creeps in, like something is watching her. Not a person, but something hidden deep within the thick bushland, aware of her presence.
Today, guys, so hopefully you can hear me okay, but this track seems to be it's very, very flat and it's well maintained. A goer for anyone who wants to give hiking a go, apart from a couple little muddy spots I came across, but you know, it's expected with rain and stuff. Hey, bottle, tripped off, look out, straight ahead, that's us. This has taken me not that long.
As she heads back down the trail, the unease only grows stronger. The mice are gone. The same open stretch where they had been lying is now completely empty. No bodies, no blood, nothing. She knows she didn't imagine them. They were far too obvious to mistake.
I'm not sure whether I should be more concerned about the mice that were dead in there, but they weren't eaten. But when I was coming back out, where did they go? Unless I just missed them, but there were 4. I saw 4, and they were clear. You couldn't miss them because the ground is dark and these mice are white. So, did I disturb some sort of eating frenzy? Weird.
Did something return and remove them while she was at the lookout? Or had something already been nearby the entire time waiting for her to leave?
Check out like around that area and see if they're open and if we can get something. Oh, you see, that's a little coffee shop there. It looks pretty cute. And then there's more stuff down here. Something I did note. Janita, one of our...
Alone in the mountains, surrounded by warning signs about wild dogs and dingoes, the forest no longer feels as harmless as it did before. Sometimes the signs are there long before anything happens, but they don't make sense until later. So what do you think was really out there watching her? The next unsettling video comes from Burbek's Beijing Urban Exploration, a channel that explores abandoned and isolated locations around the world, while using calm observational narration with very little dramatization. On July 9, 2017, the explorer walks through Japan's Aokigahara forest, following a narrow trail farther into the woods. The terrain soon becomes more difficult, with slick ground-exposed roots and hidden openings beneath the moss-covered surface. To help prevent hikers from becoming lost, biodegradable lifeline strings are attached along sections of the trail, leading visitors back toward the main path. However, some of the older strings already appear damaged and unreliable.
I don't know what the sign says, but it seems to lead off onto a bigger trail which goes this way. So I've had the feeling for a little while that...
Without warning, a loud rustling sound suddenly comes from nearby brush. He immediately stops and carefully scans the surrounding area. For a brief moment, he considers the possibility that another person could be nearby, but nothing appears. The movement was most likely caused by wildlife, yet the sudden disturbance sharply raises the tension inside the otherwise silent forest.
Something in here with me. Something over there, big, just rustled. I thought it was a person, but up there at the end of the path I thought I saw somebody wearing a blue anorak. As I moved towards it, it just seemed to disappear.
In a setting this quiet, the imagination can quickly begin filling the uncertainty with something unsettling. Nothing physical ultimately occurs during the encounter. Instead, the experience becomes psychological. The isolation, silence, and atmosphere of Aokigahara create an intense feeling of vulnerability, where even minor sounds or distant movement begin to feel important. The moment becomes a reminder that in places this remote and silent, sometimes the mind itself becomes the most disturbing presence in the forest. What the imagination starts creating can feel more frightening than whatever is actually there. So what do you think he really saw moving out there in the woods? The next video comes from Zero Subs, a YouTube channel focused on ghost hunting, nighttime exploration, and paranormal investigations. It is February 16th, 2026, somewhere in the United States.
I had a really bad feeling.
The subject slowly moves through a dark wooded area, pushing past thick trees and heavy undergrowth. The forest stays mostly silent aside from faint snapping twigs and distant rustling deeper within the woods. He stops multiple times to listen closely. The limited visibility and shifting shadows between the branches create a tense atmosphere, fully aware of how isolated the location feels.
Like, there's no cricket, no...
The noises gradually seem closer. Distinct footsteps can be heard moving somewhere nearby, heavier and more deliberate than normal small animal movement. The subject pauses once again, trying to figure out the direction of the sounds. Every time he stops, another twig snaps nearby, creating the feeling that something may be moving alongside him at the same pace. Shadows briefly shift between the trees just outside the reach of the camera light. He continues scanning the forest, his growing tension becoming more noticeable as the feeling of being watched intensifies. Then suddenly, several twigs snap extremely close by sounding clearly like footsteps moving through the brush. Instead of continuing farther into the woods, the subject immediately decides to retreat. As he slowly backs away, the encounter builds almost entirely through sound, while the source of the movement remains completely unseen. Choosing caution instead of curiosity, he leaves the area rather than following the noises deeper into the forest. Although nothing is clearly captured on camera, the combination of footsteps, snapping twigs, and shifting shadows creates a moment that feels much more intense than the short clip itself suggests. The footage ends without providing any clear explanation, leaving viewers to decide whether the disturbance was simply wildlife moving through the woods or something else quietly following from the darkness. Sometimes not seeing anything can feel worse than knowing. So what do you think was really out there? The next disturbing video comes from Appas, an outdoor exploration channel that documents real-time journeys through dense forests, particularly during harsh winter conditions. It is January 12th, 2026, in a forested region in Europe.
Oh.
The explorer travels deeper into a snow-covered forest, following tracks left behind in the snow while carefully observing the surrounding trees. The environment feels quiet, yet uncertain, with deep snow-absorbing sound and making movement slower and more difficult. Several small disturbances in the forest cause the explorer to react cautiously, repeatedly stopping to listen and watch the area closely. Every sound, whether cracking branches or distant movement, suggests the possibility that large wildlife may be nearby. They remain aware of two major dangers: unexpectedly encountering animals and becoming disoriented within the dense winter landscape.
That looks like a place where a bear would sleep in winter. I'm not checking that out. Let's get out of here. With Leah, Dad. Let's go. Get in trouble. Do you see the hole? A bear may be sleeping in here. Who knows? Let's not go deeper. This is definitely a den. Let's get out of here.
During the hike, the explorer notices what appears to be a possible hibernation den in the forest floor. Based on the size and shape of the opening, they suspect a bear could be resting inside. Understanding the danger of disturbing a hibernating animal, they immediately decide not to move any closer. Instead, they briefly record the location from a safe distance before backing away.
If these footprints are mine, because the forest can really play with your mind. Are these footprints mine? Please, pretty please let me know. I don't want to get lost. But they are not mine. You know why? 2 nails right here. Like, I don't know, a hoof or something. Maybe a boar. But we need a video. Gosh darn it. We need it. I'm deep in the forest. Pretty fresh, I don't like that. Look at this. It's probably a boar. It is a boar. It is a boar.
With multiple dens and fresh tracks visible throughout the area, the explorer decides to begin retreating. Moving through the deep snow requires slow and controlled steps. They repeatedly stress the importance of staying calm, avoiding sudden movement, and following familiar paths to avoid becoming lost in the forest. The dense trees and uneven terrain continue increasing the tension as they carefully make their way back through the woodland.
In somebody's den, with fresh footprints or with very large size, like a bear that was seen in summer last time over here. A brown bear that nobody can hunt because they're freaking protected. We can hunt. I'm not a hunter, but if I would, that would be my mindset. Forest needs to be a place that people can go to without being killed. We're almost out of here. Let's continue.
Before leaving the area, the explorer notices that several of the dens appear unusually large. They remember reports that brown bears had been spotted in the region during the previous year. This further reinforces the possibility that large predators may still be present within the forest. At that point, quietly leaving the area becomes the obvious priority. The video ends with a reminder that winter forests may appear silent, but beneath the snow, many animals remain active, and respecting their space is important for both safety and responsible wildlife observation. Sometimes the danger is already there even when everything feels completely still. So what do you think was really nearby in that forest? That's all for tonight's video. Which encounter gave you chills? Let us know in the comments below. Got your own experience? We want to hear it. And whatever you do, don't miss what's coming next.